All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thanks so much for joining us for yet another month of our Power Packed webinar series. I'm Shilpa, a corporate trainer here at Exaltius, and I'll be your presenter for today's webinar, which is the first in our May series, and it's themed Building Autonomous Capabilities with Agentic AI Systems. We are going to kick things off today with a tool many of us probably already use or have at least heard of, but maybe not in the way that you're about to see today. The topic that I'll cover today is from prompts to multi-step reasoning, doing advanced task orchestration with the tool, which is the Spotlight, which is Claude AI. Yeah, let's begin. All right, first, I want you to picture this for a moment. Say you design workshops. Maybe you're an in-house L&D professional or a freelance facilitator, or you're a school teacher or a university lecturer or someone that's running community sessions catered to client needs. Now, every engagement that you have with a different client brings a new request, a different set of audience, a different topic, a different set of duration. Now, before you as a workshop, facilitator or a designer, before you can deliver, you need to have an outline that is prepared and probably sent to your client or a school head, an event partner, and so on to get it approved. And the timeline is going to be really tight. Every time, because you get different client requests, your content may have to adapt. And so it's going to be different, but you always have like a standard template or a structure or a set of headers that you always put in place for your outline. So that is going to be the same, but everything else actually, pivots and shifts depending on the request that comes your way. So what if you could build that, structure, entire workflow just once, and then let AI handle every subsequent request for you? Yeah. So this pattern that I'm sharing here, right, isn't unique to just education or learning and development. Marketeers may face it with campaign brief creation. Probably sales folks face it with proposals. Consultants may face it with reports creation and so on. Yeah. So we might all have been here in some way or the other. So here's a question I would like everyone to hold on for the next 30 minutes. What if you could build a consistent structure, yeah, for this kind of an end-to-end workflow just once, and then let AI handle subsequent iterations? So to answer that question, let's see, how AI itself is shifting today. First, static AI that you have here on my screen. This is our, standard process where there's a single prompt that's going in and a text response that's coming out of your tool. Here we see, this is probably where a lot of us are using AI today. You go to an AI tool, you type in a prompt, you get a response, you orchestrate every turn yourself. The output that you get may work, but it's probably generic. It's maybe inconsistent when you keep going back to the tool, and because it doesn't really know your structure, so there may be some inconsistency there. Every time you have to redo the thinking and the communication when you start over. Yeah, there are no external tool connectors that get automatically activated, no actions taken on your behalf. It's just text in by you and then text out by the AI tool. On the other hand, now on the right, you see agentic AI. So agentic AI is pretty much the same AI underneath, but given structure. Yeah. So as you've seen in our past webinars, agentic AI can execute multiple steps on its own. It can read from other external tools and apps that it is given connection to, and then it can write into them as well. Yeah. The resulting output is consistent in every turn. And the best part is that you only have to define the structure once. Yeah. So the key takeaway here is that agentic AI isn't really a very different AI. It's the same AI, but it is given a structure, it's given some connections, so it can actually take actions on its own with like very high level trigger directions from you as the user. Now, in our past webinars, as I shared, I think you've seen us bring to you a lot of agentic AI tools like N8N, Flowise. So today is probably the first where you'll see agentic AI-like capability can actually live inside your everyday chat tools too. So let's talk about that everyday chat tool that I'm going to spotlight today, Claude AI. So many of us know Claude probably as a chatbot. You ask it questions, it answers, just like ChatGPT. But Claude has some advanced capabilities as well, and those are worth diving a little bit deeper into. So the first thing, conversational AI capability. So this is your natural go-to chat that you can use Claude for thinking, writing, analysis, problem solving. You have projects, so it's a persistent container where it can actually hold instructions, reference files, chats together, so that Claude AI has consistent context across multiple conversations throughout an entire project's lifecycle. Claude has artifacts. So it's like a panel where everything that you create with Claude will end up, right? So it's kind of the final destination. It's like a one-stop place for us to view, edit, download anything that we create in Claude, like your documents, interactive apps, code, and so on. And then this is my focus today, Claude Skills. So Skills is today's spotlight. They are custom multi-step workflows that Claude activates on its own when it sees a task fit. Now, those skills on their own are already great, but we are going to make them more powerful by connecting them to external tools. So that's done through what is called connectors inside Claude. So we'll get to see these in a moment when I go into the demonstration. So for now, just know that in Claude, skills are what tell Claude what to do, while the connectors give it more power. So it gives Claude the external apps to do the work in. So a quick note here, skills in Claude with connectors are now available even on Claude's free plan. So today's entire demo, I'm going to be doing it on free Claude plan, right? So that you can kind of see it to believe it and then give it a try on your own. Okay. So let's talk about why Claude skills genuinely fit the agentic definition. Okay, because of these features. Firstly, auto activation. So you don't have to tell Claude, use my skill. Claude will read what you're trying to do. It will automatically recognize the nature of the task, and then it will load a skill on its own. There's no need for any manual spoon feeding. The second thing is the multi-step execution feature. Once the skill is activated, it runs a defined workflow autonomously. So Claude will automatically orchestrate all the required steps, including the tool's activation. You may only need to step in for judgment calls if you have designed the workflow with the human in the loop principle. Next is connectors, as I gave a preview in the previous slide. So external tool connections are made possible in Claude AI with connectors. So our skill that we create can have Claude reading files, searching the internet, reading your emails, writing to, web spaces, or even creating Word documents and throwing it into Google Drive and so on. So that's another powerful feature here. Yeah, and fourth and the final piece, we build a skill only once and then it can be reused forever. So the same skill can work across infinite variations, depending on, of course, how you construct it. Yeah. So back to our workshop design scenario that I invited you to a couple of slides earlier. Once we are going to design a skill for such work, it is going to help us with the development of that workshop outline across different topics, different clients, different audiences, and different contexts. So when we say agentic, this is why, because you write bulk of the instructions only once into Claude, you create a package, which is called a skill. After that, Claude handles everything for you subsequently. So that brings me to what are we going to do today? So the scenario again is here. We're going to take this, a case whereby I'm having a new workshop request landing in my Gmail inbox. I'm going to tell Claude to actually pick that request up, read all the client needs and requirements, and prepare a neat workshop outline for me with sections that I want to put in place for every single client workshop request that I get. Just that, of course, every time the duration, audience, the topic may be different. So I need Claude to really, process all of that and give me a fresh outline every time, but with the same kind of headers. And this is my workflow. Now, every time I build a workshop outline, let's say, as a workshop designer, I store all of that inside Notion. So Claude can actually go and publish your output inside other tools, like what you see here in this particular workflow itself. Now, this is not saying that this is the only possibility with Claude. Right now, today, my demonstration is going to anchor on Gmail in, Claude skill processes, Notion out. But you can easily swap this architecture to say have the outline published to your Google Drive as a Google Doc or Microsoft Docx file, read from Outlook, and so on, right? So a quick context on Notion for anyone who's new to this tool. Think of it as an online tool for organizing information across web pages. Think of pages like more like folders, and then child pages within a parent page is just like files within a folder. So I'm going to show you a preview of Notion shortly because you're going to watch how the output goes and ends over there once Claude is done. Now, for the demo, you'll be actually seeing three broad segments sequentially. So first, I'm going to start with a chat interface with a very basic single prompt, manually writing down the requests that I got for a workshop creation. And then you're going to see the gap there. Then I'll pivot into making it more automated by creating a skill for that same work, and then we'll see that skill in action. So time permitting, maybe I'll show you a second use case, like I'll get another email in, and then you're going to see how very quickly, even for like, different context for a different set of audience and duration and everything, the same skill is able to give us the output super fast. And that actually saves a lot of time for us. Yeah. So let's go. Okay. So let me come back to this. I'm going to quickly pivot now to my, yeah. So you should now be looking at my Claude screen. All right, now the screen that you see right now is I've already logged into Claude AI. So you simply have to go to a web browser and search for Claude.ai, and then that's going to, if it's the first time that you're signing up into the tool, they may ask you a couple of registration questions, ask for an account to sync your credentials from, like I'm using Gmail in this case. And as you can see, I am on the free plan. So I'm going to do all of this in the free plan so that you can actually try it for yourself, right? So you're going to have to see it to believe it. So let's get started. So first things first, I am going to start with my apologies. Let me go back to my Claude. I'm going to start here with my basic prompt. Okay, so the first step that I'm going to do here is for me to type the prompt in. I'm going to show you the request that came in. So in my email here, I have a workshop request that has come in. So let's see what is the request. So we have received a request to create a workshop outline for a marketing scenario. So this is the topic. How can marketing team use AI to be more productive in their day-to-day work? I have the number of people and also, roughly their demographic, mid to senior level, the duration, and they want a combination of hands-on as well as some theory as well, right? So now this is pending on me. I need to revert back with an outline. So let's see how we can do that. All right. So now in Claude AI, what you can see right now, okay. So what you can see right now in Claude is my chat, pane. So every time, once you're done with the registration, and then this should be your default homepage. So here is where, you would, this is pretty much looks the same like your ChatGPT chat. So this is where you can start sending your prompt in. Now, if I went the very basic way here, I am going to send a single prompt over, and then I'm going to follow the traditional iterative approach and manually, feed in everything into Claude. Now, how would that look like? Let me try something like this. So I'm running a half-day workshop for 20 marketing managers on how to use AI to be more productive. Can you draft an outline? So this is something that I've manually drafted by looking at the request that came to me in the email. So let's see what does Claude do with this ask of mine. A quick note on the models here. Now, for the free plan, we can't use the most ambitious model that Claude has to offer, which is Opus. We can use Sonnet, which actually has a lot of, good, it has a lot of good results by itself. So you can actually get a lot done with the default model as well. So I'm not making a change here. Haiku is there fastest, lightest model. So we don't need to go there unless, you are not, you're looking for something that you want to keep going a bit longer. But I'm going to stick with the default model. Yeah. So let's send this and then you will see how Claude behaves in a bit. Okay, so Claude can do this sometimes because even you see now, I'm not using skill yet. This is just the default chat that we are using right here, but it's already an elevated chat experience because Claude is smart enough to recognize that there are a lot of missing pieces in the prompt that I sent its way. So it's trying to clarify with me so it can do a better job. What's the AI experience level of the participants? Now, I know because I read the email. It's because they mentioned mid to senior levels. Probably I'm going to go with this some exposure, but they use it limited. Take note that you have this option to also type in. If none of the options that Claude offers to you seems to fit the use case, you can actually type it in over here. So for now, I'm just going to quickly send these over. What's the workshop's focus? Practical tools, hands-on demos. How long is the half day? Yeah, that's a good question because I just mentioned half day. I never mentioned 4 hours or 3 hours. So in this case, I'm going to type the 3.5 here. And then now I'm going to send these over. So with just those pieces of information, the Claude chat is actually able to revert back to me with, an outline, and it's good, but the next time you come back, you have a new request, and then you have to start a new conversation, and then you have to answer these kind of questions that Claude just threw my way. Every single time you want to be able to create the same kind of output but for a different client and for different audiences and so on. And there's also no guarantee that these sections that you see right now will be consistently the same across every single chat request you send over to Claude. So now that's where these gaps beg us to actually do some automation over here so that we can get rid or address all those gaps that I just mentioned. Yeah. So that brings us to skills, right? So now where does skills reside in Claude? So first thing you have to, once you land on Claude for the first time, right? You have to go to your plan. There is a settings there that you just want to make sure that this particular setting is turned on. Now in capabilities, right, there is this particular setting called code execution and file creation. This needs to be turned on for the skills to work. So just make sure the first time, this is by default, it is turned on. I'm using a fresh free account. So everything that I'm showing you here should be what you should see as well when you get excited and you want to try this out later on after this workshop. But just double check still. So you go to your plan settings and then come to capabilities, make sure that the code execution and file creation is turned on. Yep, so this looks good. Okay, now where is skills? Now skills and the connectors that we talked about on the slides earlier, both reside in this option called customize. So I'm going to click customize right now. And then there you go. You see your skills here. And then you see something called connectors, right? Now, let me click on skills. So the only skill that you should all see when you land on Claude skills for the first time, be it a free account or a pro account, you should only see one skill called a skill creator. Now, this is an inbuilt skill. It's already, preloaded out of the box, available inside Claude. Now, the purpose of this skill is Anthropic, which is, the company that owns Claude. They allow us to create our own skills, and they have a skill for that, right? So basically, this is the blueprint for all of us to create tailored skills for our own use cases. And you will see how this is going to, come to life in a couple of seconds. Just remember this skill creator, right? So this is available by default inside your skills. Now, after we create our own skill, I'm going to come back to this exact place and show you that a new line item gets added over here. And that is our skill for our work, for our use case. The second thing I want to show you is connectors. I have turned on a couple of connectors already. Now, the first time you come to this place, this is all going to be blank for you. Yeah. So you, depending on your workflow, now again, because in my case, remember that this is my workflow. I'm going to have to connect the Claude skill to Gmail so that it can get the input from there, the input workshop request from there. And then I also have to connect it to Notion. Now, because of that, I have already, preloaded the connectors. This is very similar to what you've seen in our previous webinar. So, depending on your workflow, you simply click on the plus, you browse the connector that you want, and then you simply search from the available list here. So the connectors that I have already configured, they don't really have the plus beside them, but the connectors that I have not configured will have the plus beside them. So for example, let's say I want to add Google Calendar next time to, let's say, read my calendar invites and do something from there. So you simply have to click on the plus, and then Claude will ask you, hey, which account you want to connect, and then you just configure accordingly. But right now, I'm not going to do that. So let me just go back to my connectors page. Now that's just a one-time setup. And then once you've done that authentication, right, no coding anywhere. Yeah. So it's just all configured through plain English, click here, click there. So there's no code involved. There's no technical heavy lifting anywhere here. So I've already connected Gmail and Notion. The Google Drive was just done as another variant, which I can show you, is an alternative place that probably, let's say your workflow instead of Notion requires you to post that outline into a Google Drive folder. That's also possible. So there's a lot of connectors available. So you can actually go and add whatever you want for your use case. Okay. Now, with all of that done, let's create the skill now. So these are two prerequisites that I have already done. So now let me go to, again, it's going to be through the same channel, which is the chat. Okay, so I'm going to go create a new chat. And this time, instead of asking Claude to create the outline for me, I'm going to ask it to create this skill package, right? So I have a prompt. Okay, so let me just read it out high level. Now, there are many different ways to do this. I am choosing to actually put in all of my skill requirements at one go inside the Claude chat, right? But there are other approaches to do this as well. You can simply start a conversation with Claude by telling Claude, I want to create a skill. And then it's going to come back and it may ask you a couple of questions based on, what it thinks it needs to build a good skill for you. But if you already know what are your requirements, upfront, very clear, you can actually put that into a package like this, right? So I'm telling Claude exactly what I want. I'm even naming my skills, so it's easy for me to find this later on the skills page. So I'm telling it to create a skill called Workshop Outline Builder. And I'm telling it anytime I get a new workshop request, right, be it from email or from other channels, I need you to get all the details, do some quick research on the topic, propose a skeleton for me to review. And I'm giving it also the sections that I want inside my outline because this is my repeated workflow. Because this is my style, this is my template. I always give the outline to the clients and whoever comes to me, they always get these buckets because they prefer this, right? So I prefer to have that in my outline. So I'm feeding that one time only to Claude. But I'm kind of weaving the human in the loop principle here. So I don't want it to run without my review. So I'm telling it, once you have the skeleton, can you present that to me over here? Wait for me to give you the go ahead. Once I tell you, okay, good to go, then you can, go and publish it in my Notion workspace. So I will show you Notion shortly. And then that's pretty much about it. Once it's on Notion, Notion is like your, it's like, again, it's like Google Docs. Once it's on Notion, right, you can just share it to anybody's email and then they can actually review it from there. So when to trigger this skill, right? So again, the principle is the same, just like our N8N flow wise, there's always a trigger that kind of kicks off the whole agentic workflow. So trigger the skill anytime someone mentions creation or building of a workshop outline, training outline, any outline or a session plan, right? So all of these are synonyms, right? So Claude is smart enough to then, build upon all of these variants and then kick the skill and do all of the work for us. Okay. So really nothing else required. Let me send this over. And then you're going to see in just like less than a minute, right? You're going to see what's happening right here. So Claude is telling, let me read skill creator instructions. So what is skill creator? Skill creator is the inbuilt skill that Anthropic makes available by default inside our Claude AI, even for the free plan now. So it's actually referring to that blueprint that Anthropic has created, and then it's now creating our own personalized, tailored workshop outline builder skill. Okay. Now, once this skill is ready, within like the next couple of seconds, I should be able to straight away put it to use to create a very nice outline for our request for the marketing team. While this is happening, right? Let me show you Notion briefly. Okay, so this is going to happen. It's going to take a couple of seconds, but it's not very long. There, I actually have my skill ready. So let me just close this up. So Claude transparently declares what it's doing. It doesn't hang on us. So that's reassuring that work is always ongoing. Let me close this. And this is our skill, right? So you have a couple of options here for your skill. You can either download it, so that saves the skill to your downloads folder. From there, you can actually share it across with others. Or you can simply save skill. Now, save skill is going to just load the skill into your Claude AI account. For now, I'm just going to click on save skill. And then I'm going to show you what happens after I do that. Now, it tells me your skill is saved. Now, where is the skill saved? Let's follow this link. Okay, so there you have it. So I mentioned earlier, a couple of seconds earlier, I was showing you there was only one skill, that was the skill creator, the default skill. Now I have my own skill, the workshop outline builder, right? So this is ready to go. Now we have to test it out to see whether it's able to, do all of that ambitious task that we have for it to go and read from my email, create the outline, and then go park the output in Notion page, right? So let's actually see how to put this skill to use. Same place. I'm going to go back to a new chat. Okay. And then now, again, I don't need to, purposely tell Claude, okay, whatever I'm going to ask you, please make sure you turn on the skill that I just created. All that is not really necessary. It's very smart. Now, all you have to do is just, this plus, there's this plus here. And then over there, you just want to make sure that the connectors that you want to be part of this workflow are enabled, right? Now, these connectors are the same connectors that I showed you a couple of seconds ago inside my customize option, which is below the skills. And then I had pre-authenticated these. So these are one-time authentications, right? Once you authenticate, it's available over here to select inside your chat. So you want to make sure that these are toggled on. Actually, same thing for the skills as well. So please make sure just one thing, make sure that your skill is toggled on by this blue pill that you see over here. This means the skill is accessible to Claude across all of the chat conversations you're going to have with it. Now, if you disable this, there's no way that Claude is going to use this skill. So make sure that this is enabled. Now, going back to my chat, let me go to a new chat, right? So connectors, are they on? Yep, they are on. Right now, I'm going to only going to keep Gmail and Notion on. And then let me, I don't need to do anything for the skills part itself, right? Now, let me actually ask Claude, let me put the skill to use. Let's test it out now, right? Just 2 lines. I'm just going to tell it, I just got a new workshop request in my Gmail that's actually sitting here. So find the most recent workshop email request in my inbox and build the workshop outline based on those details, right? So let's send it over. And you are going to see that Claude is going to use my skill this time around. There you see it. So workshop outline builder skill. This is the skill that I just created a couple of seconds ago. So I never really asked Claude explicitly, just based on the keywords that I mentioned, I want you to build a workshop outline for me. And this was there in the trigger that when we were creating the skill. So again, it's piecing everything together by itself. You can see that because I asked it to go and read my Gmail, and because of my pre-authentication, it is very easily able to go and jump and pull my email. And then now it's actually doing the research piece. And after it's done the research, it's going to put together a skeleton for me. And it's telling me, review the skeleton, tell me looks good. And then that's it. I'm going to publish it to Notion for you. So here is my outline, right? So based on all of these details, you can see that it actually did capture the requirements from that email that was sitting in my Gmail inbox, right? So the marketing scenario, half a day, and then it's actually put together everything else for me, right? So within those 3.5 hours, what can I do? There's topics, there's activities. So everything I ask for in the structure is there, right? So ideally, you spend a lot more time over here vetting through line by line and giving any feedback for edits. But right now, I'm going to tell it looks good because it asked me to just say that. And you're going to see that now, based on that, it's going to load Notion, right? Because that's my destination. And then you're going to see that in a couple of seconds on my, Notion page. Let me bring you to Notion right now. Okay. So right now what you see on my Notion, this is my Notion page. I had already created a parent page called Workshop Outlines. That is what Claude was telling. Okay, I found the Workshop Outlines parent page. Now it's going to publish this particular marketing scenarios outline as a child page. So in a couple of seconds, once actually Claude confirms, you should actually see that happening very soon. Over here I should see a new page once it is done, right? So now it's actually telling me I'm done. So you can either click this link and it's going to actually bring you to your Notion page, or I can also click a refresh here, and then I should now see a child page on my Notion that actually has that marketing there. It actually has that marketing request. So this was the other test that I did. Yeah, so this is the one. Yeah. So let me click this up. Yeah, so productivity for marketing manager. So this was that 3.5 hours workshop that Claude just created on the chat, and then it posted it to my Notion page, right? I did not have to do anything other than a few button clicks here and there. And again, the cool thing here is that the formatting and everything adapt depending on the destination that you set inside your skill. So I have tried other variants, like in a different scenario, I actually asked Claude to not post inside Notion, but rather create a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc that resides in a Google Drive folder, also in the name with the name Workshop Outlines. So it was able to actually create a very polished, very professional looking document. You can see here. So if you want Claude to create a Word doc for you, that takes a little bit longer, but then the wait is worth because you can see the quality of the output. Yeah. So it adapts, right? It adapts. So all of these are headers and then, the body. So it adapts depending on actually what is your destination, right? So it knows what's the best way to publish the most polished and beautiful contents for you. So there's a lot of, alternatives that you can try, right? So with that, actually, you've seen a good, end-to-end demonstration. So let's go back to the slides now. All right. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us and staying with us, until now. So what are some key takeaways that I can leave you with? So what you saw today live was Claude Skills plus connectors. It's one very easy way to get that agentic feel within Claude AI with the free plan. And why is it, having that agentic capabilities? Because of that, that automatic activation and the entire orchestration taken care of for you. So you just have to build once and then let it run forever. So in terms of the workflow itself, you're free to swap any of the connectors. You don't have to restrict yourself to just Gmail and Notion like I showed. Essentially, you just construct it once, or you just instruct Claude once, and then it's basically going to help you with the automation subsequently. And you don't have to write a single line of code. Everything is just communicated in plain English. You just download or save that skill, and that's it. Claude will do the orchestration for you, right? So do try it on Claude AI. I just showed you the entire demonstration on the free plan. You do not have to be a pro user. So it's really awesome. So again, in terms of use cases, you can build a skill for many other scenarios. Maybe after you create the outline and you get it approved, the next thing you need to do is create a lesson plan. You can have a separate skill for that. Maybe you have to build client research briefs or drafts or status reports or briefs and so on, right? That there's really endless possibilities over here. Yeah. So again, if you'd like to connect with us, and if you have any questions on this specific, webinar, drop it on the chat. We'll get back to you. So to take a look at Exaltius course offerings and to reach out to us, you can go to exaltiusacademy.com. And the last thing is that we have a lot more exciting webinars coming up for you. Then subsequent Wednesdays, we're still going to, show you a lot more with Claude. So do come back and join us on these webinars happening every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Singapore time. With that, I'll take your leave today. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening and bye.